Have you ever had that moment? Your boss leans over and says, "Hey, can we make this dashboard real time?" And boom, your data lake just grinds to a halt? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, today, we're going to fix that. Welcome to the deep dive on Delta Lake. It's basically the superhero upgrade your sad, messy data lake has been crying out for. All right, so let's get right into it. To really get why Delta Lake is such a big deal, we first have to talk about the problem. I mean, why are traditional data lakes, which promise so much, so often just a total headache for data teams? So here's the big paradox, right? Data lakes are built on insanely cheap storage like S3, and that's awesome for dumping just massive amounts of data. But that flexibility, it comes with a massive price. They become chaotic, they get slow, and they are basically allergic to reliability, especially the second you try to update or delete anything. And these are the kinds of headaches that literally keep data engineers up at night. You've got things like no atomicity, which is just a fancy way of saying an operation is in all or nothing. So imagine a job fails halfway through an update. Bam! Corrupted data. Then you have eventual consistency chaos, where you write a file and maybe it shows up now, maybe in a few minutes. It's a complete recipe for disaster. But honestly, the biggest villain of them all has to be the small file problem. You know what I'm talking about. All those streaming jobs and little updates create thousands, sometimes millions of tiny little files. So when you go to run a query, your engine is just getting swarmed. It spends all its time opening and closing files instead of actually reading data. Performance? Absolutely dead. So how do we possibly fix this mess? Well, this is where the hero of our story comes in. Meet Delta Lake. It's built specifically to bring order, reliability, and most importantly, speed back to the chaos of your data lake. And this slide just shows it perfectly, the classic before and after. On the left, you've got that super complex traditional pipeline. Separate systems for streaming, for batch, for your data warehouse. It's a lot to manage. But on the right, that's the Delta Lake Lakehouse architecture. It's clean, it's unified, and it's all running on that same low-cost object storage. Okay, and this is a really key point to get. Delta Lake isn't a whole new database. It's not trying to replace your S3 or anything like that. Think of it as a smart, open-source layer that just sits right on top of the files you already have. And by doing that, it gives your plain old data lake all the good stuff from a data warehouse, like ACID transactions, reliability, and killer performance. So you're probably wondering, how does it actually do all this? Well, let's pop the hood and look at the secret sauce. The one component that makes all the magic happen is the Delta transaction log. The core idea here is actually super simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Every single thing that happens to your table, I'm talking every insert, every update, every delete, gets recorded as a commit in a transaction log, and this log lives right there with your data files. It becomes the one and only source of truth for what your table looks like at any given moment. And the best way to think about this, as you can see here, is that it's basically Git for your data. I mean, it's the perfect analogy. Every transaction is like a commit, and every commit creates a brand new, unchangeable version of your table. This gives you a complete, crystal clear history of your data from the moment it was created to every single tweak along the way. And because you have all these versions, you unlock probably the coolest feature in Delta Lake, time travel. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. With one simple SQL command, you can query your table as it existed yesterday, last week, or at version number 24. Think about it. Need to reproduce an ML model's results? Easy. Did someone accidentally drop a production table? No sweat. Just roll it back. It is the ultimate undo button for your data. And here's another huge win. Since every single change is logged, you get a perfect, unchangeable audit trail for free right out of the box. You can run a simple command and see exactly what happened, who did it, and when they did it. For things like compliance or just figuring out who broke the pipeline, this is, well, it's a total game changer. Okay, so reliability is awesome and time travel is amazing. But what about performance? Let's get to the main event, how Delta Lake makes your queries just scream. All right, first up, let's talk about that small file problem again. The OPTIMIZE command is the direct cure for that headache. You run it, and it intelligently goes through your table, finds all those thousands of tiny, slow files, and merges them into a small number of big, beautiful, highly optimized files, the kind that query engines absolutely love to read. And the difference isn't small, folks. I mean, look at this chart. This is a real-world example. Before optimization, a query took over 16 seconds. After running optimized, the exact same query on the exact same data took just 4.6 seconds. That's almost a 75% speed up. That is huge. But wait, there's more. We can get even smarter with a technique called Z-ordering. The easiest way to think about it is like a multi-dimensional sort. So instead of just sorting your data by, say, date, Z-ordering cleverly arranges the data based on multiple columns at once, like customer ID and product ID, the ones you use in your where clauses all the time. And why is that so powerful? Because it works hand in hand with another feature called data skipping. See, the Delta log keeps track of stats for every single file, like the min and max values inside it. So when you query for a specific customer, the engine just looks at the stats and says, nope, don't need to read that file, or that one, or that one. It can skip over tons of data it doesn't need to touch, which, as you can imagine, makes things way, way faster. Okay, that's a lot of cool theory, but let's make it practical. Here is your actionable playbook, the stuff you can actually go and do right now to keep your Delta tables running at top speed. Look, following these simple rules is absolutely key. First, make sure you're scheduling OPTIMIZE, daily, maybe weekly, for your busy tables. And when you do, be smart about your Z-order columns. Pick the ones you're always filtering on. Now here's a big one. Don't go crazy with partitioning. Only use it on columns with a few distinct values, like date. Never ever partition on a high cardinality column like a user ID. It will kill your performance. And finally, don't forget to vacuum. It cleans up all the old unreferenced files and saves you real money on storage. All right, let's wrap this up with a quick, rapid-fire recap of why this is all so awesome. So what does Delta Lake really give you? You get the Delta log, which is like Git for your data. You get time travel, the ultimate rewind button. Optimize comes in and just crushes the tiny file problem. Z-ordering and data skipping supercharge your queries. And all of this is built on a foundation of ACID transactions, which means your data is finally reliable. You know, this analogy just nails it. Using Delta Lake is like upgrading from a messy, cluttered garage to a high-tech, professional Formula One pit crew. Everything is organized, efficient, and incredibly fast. You get the best of both worlds, the cheap, massive scale of a data lake with the reliability and performance of a data warehouse. So there you have it. That's the playbook for building data pipelines that are actually reliable, fast, and scalable. The only question left is, what are you going to build first? Trust me, your data lake, your users, and most importantly, your own sanity are going to thank you for it.